Well, welcome to Tim's Take, and today we have Dr. Kevin Bradley, our State Extension Weed Science Specialist, and he's going to talk about my favorite subject. It really is weed science, because I think every year we have issues. Every year we're going to vow we're going to get them this year, and we've got some great technology that we've abused. We are probably abusing some technology right now.
Yep, definitely.
And then we got to talk about what's in the future. 2024 was a shift from a couple of relatively dry years to a wet year. How did that change our weed spectrum?
It was every year's different, obviously, but
right.
We started and we had pretty wet conditions, and then later in the season it turned dry. But from a weed management's perspective, it didn't really hurt things or influence things too much. I mean, like when we got the dry conditions later in the summer, I started thinking about we're going to have carryover next year. But then late fall, we got some more torrential rains coming. So not as worried about that anymore, but usually you're talking about things like, did we have some unusual event that caused increased seed production that compared to normal? Did we have some kind of conditions? And I think this is true. We did have some periods of time where we weren't controlling water hemp post-emergence. I got a lot of calls about a 2 or 3 week period of time in June, or a lot of failures. And so those kind of things can add up to, we never really control water hemp in those fields, and we get more for next year. But we just kind of have a mix this year, Tim, to be honest. Some areas we did pretty good. Some areas there's some problems. We have an unexplained period of time. Still, to me, it's unexplained period of time there where we had massive failures. It wasn't just one herbicide. It was several things. I actually had Zach Leeser, our state climatologist, kind of try to help me out, like, what's going on here? Is there any unique situations? He couldn't come up with anything really, but so, it was just one of those really weird years.
It seems like we got a lot of big rains and then some extended periods of dry. Mm-hmm. And on some of my areas, I can point to that even though we put down a pre-emerge, I don't think we got much benefit from that. Mm-hmm. Did you see that some this year?
Yeah, I mean, anytime you have extended periods of dry conditions, you're probably running the risk of not getting the full value out of that pre. And we need those pre-emergence residual herbicides. They're what keeping us in the game right now. Failures of those on a resistant, if it were resistant to some of our pre-emergence residuals, would, one of my colleagues say some pretty bold statements like the end of the herbicide era and things like that. I'm not gonna go out on that limb, but it would be devastating for sure. But we need moisture for activation of residuals, and certainly there were some areas that didn't get as much as they needed.
Well, it seems like we put ours down, and then we got a big rain on top of it. A big rain
that can hurt the crop itself. Usually, that kind of scenario. We certainly can have runoff, and we can have less weed control, but usually in that scenario, it's more of getting the herbicide in too close a contact with the seed, or it's usually when we get these massive rainfalls, we also might have a cold spell as well, and the plant can't metabolize like it normally would. And so that scenario you just described is usually associated with more crop injury, which makes growers wary of using pre-emergence residual herbicides, which is something I don't like because they get kind of gun shy, and then next year they're like, oh, that hurt me last year, I'm not going to do it. Well, the fact of the matter is, like I just said, that's kind of the thing that's keeping us in the game right now is the multiple modes of action that we have with our pre-emergence residual herbicides. And if you're going to skimp on something or not do something, it's probably, I would not recommend to do that with the pre, for sure.
Whether it's corn or soybean, either one.
Either one, because we're placing so much, like you just said, we're placing so much pressure on our post herbicides, and we're abusing them in many cases. Glufosinate, Liberty, it's sold as some other things as well. Obviously, glyphosate, Roundup, we've kind of gone down that road, and it is what it is at this point. But 2,4-D products, dicamba products, basically those are the foundation. If you're spraying post-emergence, you're spraying one of those 4 active ingredients probably, and there's a lot of pressure on those right now.
Sure. We're folks like me are promoting a lot of cover crops, and we want that the cover crops do its thing, but then we got this biomass on that. Do we have any issues about penetrating our pre's through that biomass?
Yeah, so I'm all about anything else you can do other than herbicides too. In fact, that's the whole direction we've taken for the past decade. I love cover crops, but one of the issues, for example, on a cereal rye, as big as that gets and as much biomass as that produce, if you're applying a residual herbicide, it can be taken up by the cover crop. So you might not get as much to the soil and to the ground as you want. The other thing is, though, there's been some more recent research that shows it can get washed back off again, off of the leaf surfaces. I wouldn't put a whole lot of hope into that, but we had done some research that showed, if you're going to spray a pre-emergence residual herbicide into kind of like a planting green scenario, probably best for your bang for your buck to wait and not do that at the same time you're burning down that cover crop. So spread those out. Burn down your cover crop with whatever you're going to use, Roundup or whatever. I would not put the residual on at that same time because you're probably going to waste a lot of that money. If you can, there are several active ingredients that we can put on 2-3 weeks later, even when soybeans are emerged and already growing. Acetochlor, pyroxasulfone, metolachlor, all these group 15 herbicides, that is a better scenario.
That's great to know because we have a lot more chances of success that way.
Yeah.
A lot less green they have to try to penetrate.
Right.
Oh wow. Yeah. Wow, that's probably caused a lot of issues. And
it has. There's been a lot of people that say, "Am I wasting my money?" And there's probably places where they were based on everything we've seen, and I think Wisconsin's done a little with this issue, Purdue as well. So yeah.
But the cover crop itself, that biomass, it'll help with some weed control, like your small seeded broadleaves and grasses, won't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Suppression of small seeded broadleafs, which is awesome because our biggest problem is a small seeded broadleaf. It's pigweeds, whether it's a Palmer amaranth in the south or water hemp in the rest of the state. Good bit of suppression we can get out of the cover crops. But as those cover crops decompose through the season, pigweeds are going to find a way, and they're going to be emerging, and so you got to do something more than just cover crops.
Right. Do we look at cover crops as a way to reduce our herbicide bill, or just take it as that's just going to be another mode of action that I got out there?
It can reduce your herbicide. Like I said, I think it can reduce that pass pre-plant. In a planting green scenario, I feel pretty confident that we're reducing our herbicide bill. For a person that likes to go out there and, say, burn down their cover crops 2 or 3 weeks before planting, I'm not so sure that we're actually reducing the herbicide bill, but we are getting multiple integrated strategies into that system. So I like it.
But you would not, if I'm planting green, just go all post on my herbicide still put that pre down.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. No-till. I was talking to another colleague about going some till to no-till, and they said you gotta watch that because if we get too many resistant weeds, we may have to go back to till. Are you worried about that? Because you mentioned some say the age of herbicides could be over.
Yeah, I mean, so we did a study, multi-state study, probably 8 or 9, 10 years ago. So I don't think we're there yet that we have to abandon this idea of no-till. Obviously, I'm a big no-till proponent also. I don't want to see our soil end up in the Gulf.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is this was done across like 6 states, and the United Soybean Board funded it, and we had moldboard plow of all things versus like a chisel plow in the fall followed by a disc in the spring kind of situation. That was treatment number 2. And then the third treatment was a vertical tillage tool. And the fourth treatment was no-till. And our results across all those states showed that the only tillage method that really made any difference in reduction of pigweeds was moldboard plowing. In other words, if you think you're going out there with a disc or a chisel plow and really affecting the pigweed population, you're not. Vertical tillage tool, it's just mixing that top layer of soil. You're not. And so my take is, hey, it just shows that that's not really any different than no-till. You might as well stick with no-till. Right. And I don't go around sharing all this everywhere, but moldboard plow buries that seed very deep enough that it will decompose over time and really affects your population. It reduces your population just 1 year after doing it considerably. And so I hope we don't have to go back to do that. For one thing, I don't know how many people would have to pull all their plows out of the fence rows. And I saw something, I think it was this summer, John Deere made their last moldboard plow or something.
They did, yes.
Yeah. So the thing that made them John Deere, they don't even do it anymore, you know.
Right.
So,
Right.
So I hope we don't have to go to those extremes, but the fact is, it is something that can really reduce your population.
But that would be our last possible.
I hope so.
If I got a Palmer Amaranth issue, I just can't shake. That might be my worst possible. And then come back immediately with a cover crop.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to do. You got to be proactive, or wheat, or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, late season weeds. I've been surprised so much. I think I've got it made into June. I'm laid by, and then mid-August these shatter cane and pigweeds start raising their ugly head.
Yeah.
Should I have had another pre-plant, a pre-emergent with that last pass?
Obviously, that could help, hopefully, but I think our systems are starting to adapt. Our weed species are starting to adapt to our common practices. And what I mean by that, this is not weeds becoming resistant per se. It's weeds adapting to the environment and to the typical practice we're doing. And what I mean by that is it's just we're selecting for later emerging species in our systems. The number one complaint I got, well, that's not true. The number one complaint I always get every year is water hemp. But so I just kind of sometimes ignore that when I say that. But second to that was Johnson grass this year. Everybody's having difficulty controlling Johnson grass. We even collected like 20 populations. It became such a frequent call for me that we collected 20 populations from around the state, and we're going to be screening them in the greenhouse here pretty daggone soon to see what kind of resistances they might have. But it just shows you, I mean, we're kind of accustomed to water hemp and Palmer Amaranth, and I don't think those are going away. You mentioned shatter cane. That's another one. I got a lot of calls about that. I still am getting calls about that. I think we're seeing more of that. But I think our agriculture production systems, we keep doing the same kind of things over and over, and the weeds, we'll start seeing shifts in weed species that find a way to come through that.
Well, mare's tail is a classic example. It used to be a fall emergence. Now it's more spring emergence, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I tell farmers all the time, I don't even know what to call. We used to call mare's tail a winter annual.
Right.
It's definitely not that. It's, I guess, a summer annual. I don't know. But I don't even know what to call it anymore. So, yeah, that's a great
It has shifted, yes. Well, my dad made this observation. When I was growing up, kookaburras were our worst.
Mm-hmm.
And products like Basagran came out, and we took care of that.
Absolutely.
But then we started seeing more grass. Or first we saw more morning glories.
Yeah.
More herbicides we got taken care of. Then grasses became an issue.
Yeah.
I guess they're just opportunistic, aren't they?
Absolutely. Yep.
When you take one out.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So, okay. So you said something earlier about carryover. That's something I never think about. And probably when we had that golden period when we were doing all post-emergent, we didn't have to worry about that. But now we do, don't we?
In this cover crop world we're living in, which again I think it's good, but in a dry, if we experience dry conditions late summer through the fall, it's definitely a concern. Yep.
And often we don't even know we have that issue, do we?
Yeah.
We just, whatever reason, we didn't yield as much as we thought we should have.
Right. We're not thinking about it really all that much, but there's some active ingredients, Famicefin, which is in Flexstar and things like that, is particularly troubling to the broadleaf species, some of our radishes, some of our brassicas. There are some of the Group 15 herbicides like pyroxasulfone, Zidua, for example, from BASF. It's actually labeled for control of ryegrass and wheat, and so if we're putting Zidua on later in soybeans and then we're going to plant a ryegrass, we're probably going to see a pretty substantial stand reduction. So
are you still on the warpath against annual ryegrass?
I'm anti ryegrass just because it's a hard. I'm sure it does great things for the soil and everything, but it's hard to control. It's finicky to control. I'll put it that way. And we have numerous ryegrass species with resistance in wheat production systems. And if you go to certain countries, it's number one wheat in Australia. They would just kind of hit you if you talk about planting ryegrass.
Wow.
So
you want to, if you have annual ryegrass, you as a cover crop, you want to terminate it early. No planting green for it.
It requires careful management. And so some people get mad at me, like that they're big ryegrass people. Hey, if it works for you and you figured it out, but I get not a lot, but I don't think there's a lot of people actually planting ryegrass in Missouri, but every spring, somewhere around March or so, I can set my watch by. I'm going to get 2 or 3 calls on, hey, I tried to burn down my ryegrass and I have this problem. It didn't die, and what do I do now? So, yeah.
So on we got 3. We got the glufosinate and glyphosate, and we got the hormones, 2,4-D,
Yep.
and that's what we're really leaning on now, post-emergent.
Absolutely. Yep.
And what can we do to not abuse that anymore? I mean, we have one thing I learned from your IPM field day that I could go up a little higher rates of glufosinate than I was using. Mm-hmm. That's not the best thing to do, though, is it? Maxing out those rates.
Well, I mean, maxing out the rates will obviously cost you more, but a dead weed is not going to produce seed and therefore not produce resistant seed. So, if you're having trouble killing your weed, whatever it is, then, I'm not against you upping the rate within label requirements. But in answer to your question, as we get older, this because how old you are.
Yeah.
People start looking at us, or maybe we start doing things that are weird and our focus changes. But a lot of people look at me now like I'm doing things weird. And what I'm trying to get to is I don't really focus too much on using a herbicide to solve a herbicide-resistant weed problem anymore.
Right, that's kind of silly, isn't it?
I mean, I used to. I spent some time on that. But as I look at the tea leaves, I don't see a lot that's giving me a whole lot of hope there. But I know farmers, that's the first place they look. But our program is looking more at other things. I think we're going to see a future in robotics of imagery that determines what are the weed escapes out there, and then some kind of robotic system is going to be deployed that kills that weed, and it might not be with a herbicide. It goes and targets that weed either with a little cultivator, whisk it up or whatever, or a shot of fire, propane. There's some of this already being done. Or electricity or lasers or whatever it is. I mean, we're currently not there yet, but my whole focus is in that arena now and has been for some time, because I just don't see the sustainability in placing all our eggs in the, hey, we're going to come up with some herbicide program that solves all this herbicide resistant weed issue. I've just lived too long where we get one thing, it gets resistant to it. We get something else, it gets resistant to it. And the problem is we're getting less and less of these things from companies. I mean, maybe I'll be completely wrong, but it's just not a whole lot on the horizon that looks like it's going to be some kind of savior like Roundup Ready.
So there's no new chemistry coming out that we can.
The latest chemistry, no. My answer to that is no, not really. I mean, just for example, there's a quote unquote new active ingredient coming. I believe it might get EPA approval next year. The active ingredient is called diflufenican. It's just another tool in our toolbox, but it's not good enough alone, so the company has tank mixed it with two other things, and to their credit, they have done that because, they're basically saying, I don't want to put this out there as a single ingredient because it'll just fail. So there's not a lot of hope in that, okay? So that's the only thing that really comes to mind. I'm sure there's other companies that maybe have some things in the background that I don't even know about yet, but new products, new active ingredients, there's certainly nothing like what we would hope for that would really be a game changer.
Do our post-emergent herbicides tend to become more weeds develop resistance from them faster than our pre's?
Yeah, because like you said, we're in the U.S., this is not just Missouri, in the United States, we are placing tremendous pressure on glufosinate, 2,4-D, glyphosate is a given, maybe dicamba. I mean, the future of that is uncertain right now, but certainly those three, so yeah.
Because, 2,4-D has been around since the 50s.
Yeah.
And we really didn't get a lot of resistance until lately.
But we never sprayed it across tens of millions of acres like we are in
That's
US.
the thing, isn't it? So many acres.
Yeah.
As a kid, we used so much trifluralin, a lot. Mm-hmm. But it seemed like we wasn't getting resistance.
Yeah, and to your question, pre-emergence residual herbicides, and certainly trifluralin fall in this category, their mechanism of action, the way they work, the way they affect plants is generally much more complicated than the post-herbicides that we use. In other words, it takes numerous types of mutations and things to be altered in order to get a resistant. Now, it certainly can happen, but it's just less likely. That means it's not going to happen. It's just less likely. Yep.
And probably you mentioned type 15 type herbicides. You all have a chart. The weed scientists throughout the United States came up with this. And just reference that when you're picking out your herbicide, shouldn't you?
Yeah.
When you go in corn, soybeans, or even.
So the whole industry, that's one thing that we all can get along and play well. The companies, universities, everybody. So if you look on your herbicide labels now at the top in the upper right-hand corner or whatever, it's going to say a group number or group numbers. And actually, I mean, it's like, I'm not taking credit for it. I didn't do it, but this led to fungicides and insecticides doing the same thing. So really you're seeing that in the fungicide and insecticide world as well. All we're trying to do is just say, hey, look at those group numbers and let's not spray group 15 after group 15 after group 15 over and over and over, because that's how you get resistance. So the numbering system is just a very simplified way of trying to get mode of action, rotation, and all of that.
Because I was even surprised so I thought I was rotating my herbicides, but I really wasn't.
Yeah.
Because I was just using the same mode of action.
And that's what everybody was on that bandwagon. And when we were having this educational effort, I don't know, 15 years ago or whatever it was, this was a huge problem for us, because we were going out there into the farmer communities and saying, rotate and mix and all of this. And they would say what you just said. Well, I did. I rotated from this to this. And I would say, well, that's the same mode of action. You didn't change anything. And they had no way of knowing that.
Right.
Yeah.